We're from the government, and we're here to help. I guess if you're sheltering in a room with your family, you can poop in a bag and seal it off. Hey friends, welcome back. I am Jason. I was driving through town yesterday and I saw a billboard flash in front of me and it said, "Are you ready for the next disaster?" And it said Ready.gov underneath it. And I feel like I've been on this website before, but I wasn't sure. But this is basically FEMA's disaster response government website that provides information to help its citizens, the U.S. citizens, be more ready for the next disaster. Or so they say. So I thought to myself, I better check this thing out and see what it's all about. And believe it or not, despite all of the things going around about how FEMA has been extremely unhelpful in disaster response, the website's actually not that bad. It's not that bad. There's some really good information on there, and it's worth taking a look at. Somebody did something right. The website's not too terrible. There's a significant amount of good information on there. Friends, if you haven't already hit the thumbs up, please do so. I'd be really grateful for that, and consider subscribing so you don't miss out on all the good content that's coming out soon. I thought it would be interesting to take a look at their recommendations for the equipment, the gear, the supplies that you should have on hand for the next disaster. So first of all, they say store your kit in an airtight bag so it's protected from the elements. If it should be outside for some reason, if you should have to take your kit outside, it'll be protected, and that's a great idea. Solid choice. And then put it in some sort of bin, plastic bin, or some sort of duffel bag that makes it easier to carry, to tote around. Also, good suggestion there. Now, in this kit, they suggest that you have 1 gallon of water per person per day of fresh drinking water. Storing water in general is really difficult, and it takes a significant amount of space. What I always suggest is that you have an alternative way to get water besides just your bottled water that's sitting on the shelf. You know, if you've got a well, awesome. Have a way to pump the water out of your well if you don't have electricity. If you're on city water, have a way to boil it, purify it, filter it in some form or fashion so you can make that city water safe to drink if it should be contaminated for some reason. If the water stops flowing, where's your next drink of water going to come from? Maybe you do need to store water. Maybe you need to have rain barrels. Maybe you need to have just a giant big tote full of water that you cycle on a regular basis so you have got enough for you and your family at your home. Food is next on that list. Have several days of food per person. It just says several. What does that exactly mean? I don't know. I would suggest that you've got at least 2 weeks, at an absolute minimum, 2 weeks of food for your entire household. And just food that you normally eat, canned foods, preferably it'd be stuff that you normally eat that you don't have to really, it's not an elaborate type of meal like spaghettis and things like that, pasta, noodles, and things that are easy to boil, cook up. Sauces can be added really easily, maybe with the meat already in it so you don't have to cook an additional thing. Things of that nature, just really simple. Yes, I'm a pretty healthy eater for the most part. Me and my family are pretty health conscious people. But in a situation like that, we're going to slip a little bit. It's okay. Do what you got to do to get by, at least for the short term. The suggestion to have several days worth of food, I think, is good, but I would definitely up that to a minimum, absolute minimum of 2 weeks. Everybody has excuses of why they can't do that. Budgetary reasons, storage reasons. You can get crafty, you can get creative, you can save up, and you can gradually make this happen. You don't have to go out to the store and buy 2 weeks worth of food for your family right now. You can buy an extra can of beans, and you can buy an extra can of sauce, and you can pick up an extra package of the noodles, and just every time you go to the grocery store, and it's not going to cost you that much money. Battery-powered radio and or a hand crank radio, and then it says a NOAA weather radio, and I don't really know what that is. If I'm 100% honest with you, I'd have to look that up, and I have not yet. So if you know what that is in the comment section, please let me know. If you're a little bit embarrassed that I don't know what it is. so flashlight, and then a first aid kit, and then extra batteries for your flashlight and your radio if you should need it for that, if it's not one of the hand crank ones. I like the hand crank radios, by the way. Those are pretty solid just for getting information. It's not a two-way radio, obviously, but it is pretty helpful for just listening to weather reports and stuff like that. Those hand crankers are pretty cool. Flashlight, any flashlight will do, as long as it's a decent one, a watertight one, a waterproof one. That's not going to fail you. Don't store the batteries in there long term. Keep them separate. That would be my suggestion, because I've had some corrosion issues with batteries stored in flashlights for a long time, and it makes the flashlight itself not usable anymore. So keep it separate. Doesn't mention that on this list, but that's just me talking. A first aid kit, absolutely. Definitely have a first aid kit and know how to use all of the items in your first aid kit and get some training on it. A whistle, so you can signal for help. You know, if communications are down and there's no way to really signal for help and you're stranded, like some of the people that we were encountering in the Hurricane Helene recovery effort, people are stranded on the side of the mountain somewhere and the roads are cut off and we don't know anyone's there unless you know, travel across this treacherous ravine that now exists from this flash flood and to get over there. But if someone was up on the hill tooting their whistle, blowing 3 toots on that whistle every few minutes, you would know, hey, someone needs help, and there they are. And then we could develop some sort of plan to get to them. So a dust mask, and I'm assuming a dust mask for several dust masks probably, because they don't last forever if you're using them in a really dusty situation and sweating in them and stuff like that. And one for each person in your family would be a good idea, definitely. And if nothing else, like a neck gaiter of some sort, bandanas, that kind of stuff. But an actual dust mask, an N95 would be a really, really smart idea to have in some sort of emergency kit. Next one on the list I thought was interesting, and I did click on the link to go to a separate page for this one. Plastic sheeting, scissors, and duct tape. And what they recommend is if you do need to shelter in place and there is perhaps some sort of chemical, nuclear, some sort of dangerous particulate floating around in the air that you need to, or gas of some sort, and you need to protect yourself from that, you can seal off a single room of your home with plastic sheeting and duct tape, close up all the windows and gaps in the doors and all that kind of stuff to protect yourself, at least for the short term. How long would you need to stay in there? You'd have to do some further research on exactly what the situation was before you would know when it's safe to come out of that room. But that's what that is for. Plastic sheeting, scissors, and duct tape, so you can isolate yourself and shelter in place. For personal sanitation, they recommend that you have like wet wipes, garbage bags, and plastic ties. I guess if you're sheltering in a room with your family, you can poop in a bag and seal it off and dispose of it at a later time, which would be pretty terrible. But let's hope we never have to do that. But that's what that would be for, so you're not, pooping in the corner over there and people are having to smell it and live with it. That would be pretty terrible. Wrench and or pliers to turn off utilities. So, for example, if there was a fire in your area and you wanted to cut off the natural gas supply into your home, you'd have a way to do that. I mean, I think everyone, no matter who you are, should have a basic toolkit. If pipes should get busted, you'd have a way to go out there and shut that thing off, the main supply into your home, so you can keep it from further damaging your home. A manual can opener, not one of those battery ones or not one of the plug into the wall ones. An actual manual old school way to open up a can. Yes, there's lots of ways to get into cans without a can opener, but it sure is a pain in the neck and kind of makes a mess sometimes. So, local maps of your area. This is a good one. This is really good stuff, and a lot of people neglect this one because they rely 100% on their phones, their GPSs, to navigate their way around. A lot of people don't even know the names of the roads in their area and in their towns. I'm guilty of this too. There's roads around here that I see pass all the time, and perhaps even drive on, and I don't remember the names of them because I just haven't needed it, because I haven't looked at the map and I haven't given directions to somebody to get to and from, because it just isn't necessary anymore because of all the advancements in technology. But when those advancements in technology let us down, inevitably, it's excellent to have a paper map that you can look at and perhaps give to somebody else, or just be able to get your way out of town if that's what's necessary to escape this disaster zone. And then finally on the list, it talks about a cell phone and a way to charge your cell phone, and then a backup battery source to charge it up. Excellent. Yes, definitely have all of that. Super good idea, because just because there's a disaster in the area doesn't mean your cell phone's not going to work. It could mean that. It could mean cell phone towers are down, but it doesn't necessarily mean that. So have a way to charge that thing up. So that's the primary list of supplies that Ready.gov recommends that your family, your household has, that you have. And then it goes on to list additional supplies like soaps and sanitizers, prescription medications. Definitely a smart idea if you're on some sort of prescription that you require. You may not be able to get to the pharmacy to to get a replenishment of those meds. Over-the-counter medications such as pain medications, aspirins and stuff like that. Anti-diarrheals, just in case, because if sanitation is lacking because you've been cooped up in a house with a bunch of stinky people, then diarrhea might be a thing. And having some anti-diarrheals so you don't get super dehydrated is probably a really smart idea. I definitely do that as well. Glasses, spare glasses in case something happens to your primary one. Extra contacts, way to clean your contacts. Luckily, I don't have that issue, but my wife does. She's got a few pairs of glasses laying around that always seem to go missing. Having an extra pair of glasses and contacts laying around is a really, really good idea, because if you can't see, you're gonna be in trouble. If you've got little ones, you got babies, formulas, diapers, wipes, all of the things that babies should need. Diaper rash creams and such like that, the monkey butt stuff. Excellent idea to have a good supply, a healthy supply of that. Don't forget about your pets. Pet food and water for your pets. If they don't like my dog just comes out, and I don't even give my dog water ever. I do not give my dog or my cats water. She comes down here and she drinks out of the creek or the pond or the closest puddle to the house. So I'm fortunate in that, but not everybody's in that same boat. So make sure you've got enough food, a couple weeks worth of food for your pet, and water as well. Cash or traveler's checks. I have not used a traveler's check in a long time. I honestly didn't even really think about that being a thing anymore. Having cash on hand is definitely a thing. I used cash several times recently in the North Carolina area and the disaster area because credit cards were not an option. You had cash or you had nothing. Important documents, passports and deed to your home, or at least copies of that kind of stuff on file and in your kit would be really, really smart in case you got to leave and your house gets just annihilated, destroyed. Sleeping bag and a complete change of clothing and shoes. Highly recommend that everyone in your house has a sleeping bag ready to go. Keep sleeping bags in my truck. We have sleeping bags in the house. I've got sleeping bags in the barn. If the heat should go out and it gets frigid cold, we are not going to die of hypothermia because we have shelter. Or even if we're outside and we have to set up some sort of shelter, we're not going to die because we have the necessary warming layers. We can dress appropriately and we can have a sleeping bag to stay warm. Complete change of clothing in your ready-to-go bag. Smart, because if stuff gets wet, gets filthy and nasty, and very likely that it could, you have a way to get clean and be back in action. Having a comfortable pair of shoes. Very, very smart. Not everybody wears, work boots, every single day and has comfortable shoes that they can walk in. So make sure you've got those at hand in your kit ready to go. A fire extinguisher, and make sure everyone in your family, even the little ones, know how to use the fire extinguisher. I have tested fire extinguishers and they're not as effective as you would think in all situations. It takes a significant amount of that fire retardant spray to put out a really intense flame. The next suggested item on the list is matches. Why matches over a lighter? I don't know. I'm not a real big fan of matches. A Bic lighter is always the way to go, in my opinion. But you do you, and you go with your gut on that. Having matches and a lighter, lots of matches and lots of lighters would be really, really smart in case you've got to build some sort of fire. You got to cook outside. You got to do whatever you got to do. But having a way to start fire is super, super important. Feminine supplies. You ladies, you know what you need. Just take care of that. We don't need to discuss it any further. Mess kits, paper plates, cups, plastic utensils. Yes, you don't want to be doing dishes in a situation where you're rationing out your water. That 1 gallon per person per day, you'll go through it pretty quick if you're washing dishes. So yeah, it's a little bit wasteful, sure. Bad for the environment, sure. Fills up the landfills, yeah, I got it. But in a situation like that, having disposable stuff that you can burn and get rid of is a pretty smart idea, in my opinion. Paper, pencils, books and games and puzzles and things like that, so you can pass the time, because if you are sheltering in place, you're stuck in your home for a significant amount of time. It's a good idea to have ways to pass the time. I would suggest that as well. Goes on to say to make suggestions about where you should keep these things. Have them ready to go. Make sure everyone in your home knows where they are so they're easily accessible. It says keep one in your car. Keep a kit in your car, maybe a slightly smaller kit in the car. Keep one at your work with comfortable make sure you get it stressed having comfortable shoes so you could get your way home from your workplace. Despite how you may feel about the government, FEMA, and their disaster response, or lack thereof perhaps, the website's actually not bad, and there's some pretty good information on there, and I would suggest at least taking a look at it. You might just learn something. So guys, I really do appreciate you watching. Let me know what you think about FEMA's list, their survival kit list. Let me know what you think needs to be added. Let me know if you think it's complete garbage and a waste of time to even look at this Ready.gov website. I really do appreciate your views, the thumbs up, really grateful for that. Make sure you're hitting it. Subscribe if you haven't done so already, and notifications bell is always helpful so you don't miss out on all the new content coming out. Till next time, friends, what's the worst that could happen? Let's just go on 3.